So today I'm going to talk about my experiences last week staying in the Travelodge, which, if you don't know, is a chain of hotels in the UK. I think they've got them around the world actually. And I've stayed there all last week because I was working down in London, and I thought I would just reflect on my experience and see how I can twist and turn it into something about personal development. And actually, in the middle of the week, I thought, oh, yes, this would be a good thing to talk about. So I wrote down 5 ideas about personal development with regard to my stay in the Travelodge in Acton in London. So here are my feelings and thoughts. So number one, it struck me that this particular Travelodge really did go out their way to welcome their guests. Now, it can be basically at one of these type of hotels. Everybody sort of comes at the same time. A lot of working people or business people are staying over, and families come in at the same time. But I have to say, the people behind the desk were joyous all the time. They were very welcoming. And basically, it felt really like I was connecting where I was going to stay. And that struck me. It struck me as a personal development point. How many times do you connect with somebody in your day that you both have perhaps different expectations, but you connect in a way that feels joyous and feels warm and feels welcoming? So let me explain a little bit. So my intention was, I had my suit bag and I had my wheelie and I had my laptop. My intention was get to my room as quickly as possible to get all this off, sort myself out, and go and get some dinner after a hard day. The intention of the person behind the desk was to welcome me to the Travelodge, to check me in, to make sure I was okay. They asked me if I wanted some dinner. They asked me, if they could do anything to make their stay better. Don't hesitate to ask. And their intention, I don't think, was to check me in and put me through the system. I think their intention was to welcome me and welcome me to their place of work. And we had a conversation. We had a conversation about British Sign Language. We had a conversation about what the best pizza was. And indeed, I had a great pizza that night. That made me want to stay in the hotel. They talked about what was around locally. What a great welcome. What a great welcome. And their intention, I don't think, was to, as I said, put my little key card in and check my credit card and make sure I'd signed in properly. Their intention was to make me feel welcome. And if that was their intention, didn't say it, by the way, but if that was their intention, they certainly did. So first point about personal development, point number 1 is, what's your intention when you go and meet someone? When you meet someone in the supermarket, maybe later on, when you meet someone tomorrow, however you travel, you might, go to the petrol station or your gas station, or you might get on a bus or a train. What's your intention when you meet people? When you go into work or in the morning when you wake up with the family, what is your intention? What can you have inside you that you want to do and want to achieve? Obviously something positive. And as we go back to the Travelodge example, the intention was to make me feel welcome, and I certainly did. Point number 2. So I'm getting into my hotel room, and it's a hotel room. They all look the same. The same strip thing across the bed, which are the corporate colours, and I have no idea what use that strip thing is. So what I always do is I fold that up. I never throw it on the floor. I fold it up, put it neatly into sort of like one of the bedside cabinet things, because I'm not going to use it, so it goes there. And the environment is basically your hotel environment for the next couple of nights. And I think when you get into a hotel, or when you go into any room or anywhere you're staying or any office, make that environment yours. So what I always do when I go to a hotel, if I'm not in a rush, I always unpack. And even if the place hasn't got drawers and cupboards, and the Travelodges don't, and the reason why they don't is because there's a quick turnaround, and that's fine for me. But I make sure I have, all my stuff that goes into the bathroom, goes to the bathroom. My, a change of clothes is always hung up. I sort the table or the sort of the desk out. If I need an iron and an iron board, because I quite often have business shirts, I sort of like to iron them before I go into a meeting and various things. So I get my environment set up. Now, some people, take with them little sort of sprays just to freshen up to make that smell feel like theirs. I don't do that, but sort of the products that I use, sort of like the shampoo and all that, sort of make that for me. But I think the learning here for personal development is shape your environment wherever you are. Is there anything around you now that you're just looking, obviously you're listening to me, but you look around and you think to yourself, do you know what? Actually, that doesn't fit. That doesn't serve a purpose where it is. Or that needs a bit of a clean, or that needs a bit of a move around, or maybe I could just, instead of having all these things here on my desk, I don't have anything here on my desk. The only thing I've got on my desk is my computer and my glass of water. Is there a pot I could put those pens in? Could I use that drawer better to put things in? And I just think, shaping your environment. So learning from the Travelodge for me was about making the environment my sort of space, because I was going to be there for the next 3 or 4 nights. So tip number 2, self-development thinking from the Travelodge, was make the environment yours. And any tips that you have about travel, by the way, any tips that you do to make the environment yours, pop them down below in the chat, because that helps people out as well. Learning number 3 for me, was about routines. And it's quite easy, isn't it, to be away from home and you slip out of the routine, getting up at a certain time in the morning. I quite do that, and going to bed at a certain time at night. And I do that at home, but it's funny when I go to a hotel, you sort of switch the TV on and you watch stuff that you would never watch. You'd never watch, would you? You just don't. You don't flick your TV like that, and probably the system that the hotel uses is very different to your system at home. So I've stopped watching TV now in hotels. I put the controller away from the bedside sort of cabinet area, put it away, and I don't watch TV. And I tend to watch some motivational stuff on my computer, and then get to a point where I switch it off, no blue light, and then just chill for a bit and have a bit of a chill time. But it's funny, isn't it, how you break your routines? And it also is funny how, or interesting, I should say, not funny, it's interesting how you then start to think about your routines that you have at home. Those little tiny, and I've talked about it before, those little tiny habits that make it easier. Putting things in the same place, putting your shoes and maybe your jogging equipment, you don't need equipment to jog, do you? You need your jogging clothes ready, so when you jump out of bed, you can go for a jog. And that's what I do. When I'm in a hotel, and if I'm at home as well, I try and get out for a morning walk if I'm working from home. So why you should really do it the same. When you go out and you stay in a hotel. So what are those routines that serve you, but also what are those routines that don't? And what are the triggers that don't serve you? So as I've just explained, it's that trigger, isn't it? The trigger of getting the TV remote, switching it on, and then an hour later you've watched some really trashy rubbish TV that you weren't going to watch, and there is some rubbish on. I was watching it. I'm not even going to go into it. It was just rubbish. But I watched it, which is even weird, isn't it? The trigger and that habit loop. You get the trigger and you get the behavior and you get that reward. Stop the trigger. Move the TV remote out the way so you don't use it. But again, back to point number 3 about the Travelodge. I'm slightly going off on a tangent there. It is about routines. What routines serve you? What do you do at home that you should continue when you do when you stay away? So again, one of the routines I always have a routine of when I go to a hotel is, if I've checked in, go for a quick walk after, look around the local area, grab a big bottle of water. I don't necessarily trust water in hotels. I'm sure it's fine, but so no one from the Travelodge tell me our water is wonderful and whatever. It might be fantastic, but I always go and get a bottle of water, so I have that in the hotel. And that's a little bit of a routine for me. So what routines could you put into your life that serve you? So for example, go for a walk in the morning, maybe read for 20 minutes after you wake up. Don't do the old doom scrolling on the phone. Go for a walk at lunchtime, after dinner, whatever. Little bit of those healthy routines that you can put in your life. What are those for you? Okay, number 4, beg your pardon. Number 4 is about what you really need in life. And I reflected when I was in the Travelodge. So in the Travelodge, they don't have wardrobes, in a sense. They have hangers. And you have 6 hangers that you can take out, but they're not like real hangers, okay? They're like hangers that clip onto a thing that stops you taking the hanger away, I suppose. I suppose that's what they're there for. And it struck me, when I hang my clothes up from my suitcase and from my wheelie bag, is that, I have a set number of clothes that I use, and I don't go beyond that. And it struck me actually that we don't really need a lot of things to go through the week. I have my shaving bag and my a toiletry bag, which have the things in, and I replace. So if if for example, if I'm on a trip and I run out of, say, shaving foam or toothpaste, I don't wait. I just go to the local store and go and buy a toothpaste and replace it. Whereas sometimes when we're at home, we buy the 3 for 1s or the 2 for 5s, and you end up a drawer full of toothpaste. And I know that I've just been doing some sorting this morning. I don't know how many toothbrushes and things I've got from airlines and various things, but I've recycled them now and sent them to a local homeless shelter that I know needs personal toiletries for people. They're not open, of course, I've not used them, but they might be useful for somebody else. But it struck me, as for number 4, personal development, the things that you need in life. So, do you need several notebooks or you just need one? In fact, if you've got a computer and you've got an iPhone, an iPad, and whatever, and various things, or other things are available, but I use Apple. Do you really need the notepads? Can you use the note document, the note facility on your computer? So for me now, as I'm talking to you, I've got the camera screen open here, and I've also got, I don't even know why I'm pointing to the screen, but I've got my notes here for what I'm going to talk about here, and I can see it here, and I can talk to you, look you in the eye and talk to you watching me here. So yeah, quick, do you need notepads? Do you need pens? Probably not. You can use your computer and your phone. And what do you need? So chargers, for example. So my phone charger also charges something else, and my computer thing also charges something else. I don't need loads of chargers like that. So I suppose tip number 4 from the Travelodge is just, what do you need? What do you need, and what do you need to use? Do you add some things? So I don't particularly like instant coffee. So I take with me little coffee instant bags. They're like a little bag that you pour hot water on, boiling water on, and they make a fresh cup of coffee. I have them in my wheelie, and I have them all the time. Do I absolutely need them? Well, I think I do, because I like a decent cup of coffee. I've now started carrying a metal water bottle, which I fill up with fresh water. I said before, I buy a bottle of water, but if there's a water fountain, I fill it up. That's all I need. I don't need other things, or the drinks or the various things, because that satisfies me. So again, just question, what do you need? What do you need? What do you really need? Going back to those 6 hangers. And I'm actually on a business trip in 2 weeks' time as well, and I've now thought about those hangers and thought, right, what am I going to put on those hangers? And that's all I need in my wheelie, in my bag, and it will help me when I'm traveling. And then the last tip, number 5. Number 5 is about helping others as you go along. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean when you leave your hotel room. So when you leave your Travelodge hotel room, I just, wonder about the people that clean rooms after people in hotel rooms. I don't know what the job's like, but I'm not quite sure, I'm sure I'd enjoy it, I'd say. But I'm sure the people are. There's people who are whistling as they go along and saying good morning and hello, and that. But I just think, how can you make it a little bit easier for the person that's going to clean that room after you? Because actually, don't you, that they turn around the room cleaning. If people leave at 12 and then they open up, booking at 2, because they need those time to close down and make sure everything's working and everything's clean and everything's tidy and sanitized for the next guest. How can you make it easier for your for the cleaner or the person that does your room, or the room technician? I'm not sure what those wonderful people, their titles are called in the Travelodge. So little things I like to do is I don't strip the bed, of course I don't do that, but I just make sure it's easier to change. So everything I put back onto the bed so they can do that. Sometimes the pillows go on the floor, don't they? And as I said, that little thing that they put on the bed, that I don't even know what it's called. Do you know what it's called? That little thing they put on the bed with the corporate colours on? I don't know. But that I put that back. I put the remote back where it should be. If I've used tea and coffee, or if I've had a drink maybe and I've had a glass from the bar or wherever, I put that in one place, not everywhere, just one place. And then what I do with my towels, and you have your towels, of course, if you don't use your towels, you should just leave them hanging, because that's what we do to save the earth. But if I have used them, I make sure I either put them in the bath so they can just be scooped up, or I put them all in one place, and just give a wipe across the sink, and just put the towels that I've used in one place, because I think about the person that's going to come in and have to clean that room. The first thing they're going to have to do, aren't they, going to have to pick up all those towels, put them somewhere. They're going to have to pick up all that bed sheets, put them somewhere. They're going to have to do the hoovering, doing the wipe down, the sanitizing, and all that they've got to do, and then check the remote control's gone in the right place, and check that the tea, coffee, and kettle's being washed out, and all that. I noticed in the Travelodge they've got those little robots that clean, that do the vacuuming, which is cool. I've got one at home, and we use it all the time, and it's just a little time saver. Press a button, little robot. Now we call ours Rover. Little Rover comes out, and he, they, she, I don't know what gender Rover is, but Rover comes out, does a quick round the living room, ventures into the hallway, and it's a bit of fun actually, but it also saves a lot of time. And I noticed the Travelodge are using those in the hotel, and it's great to see. So yeah, what can you do to help others along? And then that goes back, doesn't it, to my first point about having that warm intention, that welcome. So I've covered a lot there, didn't I, folks, about my stay in the Travelodge. But there was 5 tips that I talked about with regard to personal development. Number 1, that warm welcome. What's your intention to make somebody else's day? Number 2, your space, your environment. What can you do to change it, to make it yours? Maybe a little spray in the air of something lovely in the air, or whatever, or you bring something from home just to make it your space. Following routines for number 3. What positive routines can you follow on from home, or can you start to create at home? Because this isn't just about staying in hotels, is it? You've probably worked that out. This is about general sort of personal development tips and hints and strategies. Number 4 is about what you really need in life. What are you carrying? What you need not to carry. That's a good one, isn't it? What are you carrying and what you need to carry? And that isn't just about personal. That isn't just about material things. What stuff are you carrying in here that you don't need to carry? But that's a whole other session. And then number 5 is, how can you help as you go along? How can you help somebody in their role and in their job, just to make it a little bit easier for them to help the next person?